Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In case you're new here, I'm Alina Goes and welcome. This particular video is all around the 5 things that I wish I knew before I even started cloth nappies. No, it wouldn't have put me off cloth nappies, but it's something that I wish I knew because they were a little bit of a shock. This is actually in the collaboration with another YouTuber, so I'm going to add all the links and stuff in the description, so make sure to check it out. So this is with Jay's Nest, and she's been doing cloth nappies and reviews and like lots of tips and tricks that you can be checking out, and you should go and check out her YouTube channel because it's awesome, especially if you're into those cloth nappies and stuff like that. So because of Make Cloth Mainstream Month, she decided to put this together, I believe, and because of that she's putting together like a playlist, which I'm going to link down below so that you can check it out, around lots and lots of people around the web. So it doesn't have to be YouTube, it could be like Instagram for example, and Pinterest and things like that, that talk about cloth nappies and why it's so important for us to get onto that and actually have everybody pitching in and doing the same, because we need to live more sustainably. Before I begin though, just the usual, I am now doing this in my spare time, so I actually work full-time in digital marketing for a high street brand. So apart from that, I actually come home and then do these YouTube videos. I also now started to do these in my lunchtime, so I am using a lot of spare time, so just the thumbs up would go a really long way and I'll very much appreciate it. So let me start off with poopies, and the reason I'm going to start with this one is I think this one was the most surprising for me, because I didn't actually realise that their poop changes throughout time. Basically what I mean is that when they're babies and they're breastfeeding, well, we were breastfeeding, if you're formula feeding or whatever, it's always liquid, isn't it? So that means that their poop is actually a lot more liquidy, and it's just like explosive because their poops are really like going everywhere. In case you don't know and you haven't been a part of my series, firstly welcome and thank you so much for watching this video. Also don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button. But our journey started at 3 months, so we were still breastfeeding then up until I started weaning him at around that 5-month mark, when I started seeing the poops change. So what that means is that because we started using reusable nappies at 3 months, it was still like explosive, like we had poonamis everywhere. Yes, it meant that the poopies would like be squished, and then sometimes we'd have leakages and things like that. But I wanted to make you aware that actually the poo does change and it does get easier, mama. So if in case you're like wondering what should I do, when should I start, have a think about this, that actually their poo does get easier to remove. So as they start eating solids, you can start having harder poos, which you can then just remove and pop in the bin, rather than what I did at the beginning, which was actually soak the whole nappy or wash it first, so like rinse it, then actually put it into a cloth nappy with water. I also added a bit of vanish in there, I don't know if that's right but that's what I did. And basically it's like a matter of soaking the nappy before you actually wash it, because of the stainage, and in my opinion it was just so much easier to get rid of like the residue before you actually put it into the washing machine. So I wish that's something that actually somebody told me about, that yes, it's not something that you will have to do continuously, it's only until the poos start changing and becoming more solid. The other thing I was going to mention around a poop is the fact that your baby might have diarrhea now and again, so even when they are a little bit older, yes, they will have the liquidy poops, and it's just something to keep in mind. But I'm going to tell you how I get around it, because actually the way and the routine that I take for this is make sure that I use different liners. So I use the 100% biodegradable bamboo liners when I know my baby's going to poo. And usually that is around the morning time. So as soon as he wakes up, I put him into a different nappy, so change him from a night nappy, and add a liner that is one of those biodegradable ones and not one of those reusable ones. That comes later on when I know he's less likely to poo. So that means that actually for me it's much easier, because I can get rid of his poo, whether it's in the toilet or whatever, and actually dispose of that liner rather than actually having to wash and rinse the reusable liner. So for me, I actually find that so much easier, and I hope that's a really good tip for you. So the second thing that I was going to talk about is actually price, and it's something that I go through in every review of every brand that I've done so far on my channel, and that is talk about the price as well as the quality, because actually in my opinion, the more you spend doesn't necessarily mean better quality and it's something that will work for you. Actually, you should work out first what kind of materials and types of nappies suit you first before you splash out. That's just my opinion. How it's worked for me is the fact that I bought secondhand. So I bought about 26 nappies secondhand from a local lady who was, I think she's had about 4 kids, and so she no longer needed them. So I found out what I liked and when I liked it. So I actually ended up buying more different types of nappies to see actually, are they suitable, are they not? And usually, and most of the time, it was secondhand. And only then did I start actually putting my money into something that I thought, oh yes, I'm going to try this because either it's completely different or it's completely better quality and I know what quality that I like. So I like the natural materials now, but I also like a mix. So basically having microfiber is great, but I know that actually it's not as absorbent as things like cotton, hemp, bamboo. So I'll make sure that I actually spent my money on those things, knowing that they work better for us, and actually we need that absorbency because my son is such a heavy wetter. When it came to like the different types of nappies, so all in one, all in two, and like pocket nappies, and by the way, in case you're new and you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will add an introductory video that I liked from one of my favourite YouTubers who talks about this quite a lot, and actually I'll add a few just in case you need to get your head around it. My main point here is to say that it's not about just spending money when it comes to reusable nappies, but actually it's about being clever about how you go about that journey, especially if you're just starting your collection. So have a think about doing secondhand, and what I'm going to do is actually add another link to the Facebook group that I started actually doing my research in. Number 3 is all around Rashes. So you'll be surprised, but actually Rashes for reusable nappies are not so much on the bottom. They're actually really much kinder to the baby's skin and much kinder to the baby's bot as we call it, because I think it's the materials, the fact that they're like fleecy, the liners also make sure that like it takes the moisture away from the bottom. But rashes do come along, unfortunately, and these are usually around like the midriff area, so the stomach area, or I find it on my baby's thighs. Usually the reason for these rashes are fit, so you might have done it a bit too tight. And for me, I know that sometimes my baby might actually eat throughout the day and his stomach gets bigger and bigger, which means that even though I would have put it correctly at the beginning, as the day goes on, be aware that actually their stomachs expand and therefore they might get tighter and they'll get some chafing. Although I've tried plenty of Rashes cream, I found nothing works as well as pseudo cream. It's so easy, you can get it in every supermarket, and I'm sure you have it in the cupboard even when you didn't have children. So it's a perfect way just to like rub it on your baby and your baby's skin, and the next day it should be much better. If there's anything more than that, please be aware that you should be checking it out with your GP or your midwife. Before I finish up though, just a tip on rashes, and that's to say that especially during nighttime, that's when I find my baby gets his rashes on the thighs area. Because it's so chunky and because he's a heavy wetter, I've got no choice but to make them like absolutely huge and packed full of stuff. In case you're interested, I will be doing a nighttime nappy video specifically on this in a couple of weeks time, and there's going to be a giveaway as well, so make sure to subscribe so that you are notified when that goes live. But essentially, because I have to make it chunky, his thighs do get irritated quite a lot by the material on the sides, and obviously because he can't move around, and if he wakes up during the night, which is usually 2-3 times a night if not more because we're still breastfeeding, then unfortunately he does get those rashes. So it's just something to be aware of, that sometimes you can't get away from them. But something I would recommend is making sure that having PJs or like onesies that they're wearing that actually covers and puts like a material in between the thigh and the nappy. That's a way that I found actually minimizes those rashes for us. So number 4 is smell, and you'd be surprised to know that actually no, I'm not talking about poopy smells. I'm talking about 2 different smells here. Firstly, when I started the collection of my reusable nappies, as I said, they were secondhand, and because they were secondhand, they came from a family full of smokers, and the reason that I know that is because the nappies smelled really, really bad. So because of that, I ended up actually soaking them in Vanish, like I said earlier, before I actually washed them in the washing machine. I used just a scoop of Vanish. It's that pink box. You can also get like the soapy bars, but I used the powder, so I just used like the scoop of that, mixed it up with some hot water, and then soaked the nappies and the inserts in that. And I found that after the first time, that smell did not go away. But after a while, I'd say it took a couple of weeks at least to get rid of that smell completely. Before I forget, actually one of the other things that I did is use scent boosters. So I know that you're not supposed to be using extra things like that in the wash, but I ended up using that with my secondhand ones, and no, they did not ruin my nappies back then. I believe they were the Littles and Blooms one. If you want to check out the review, I'll pop a link up there. But essentially they're absolutely fine, and they smell absolutely lovely, and there's no more smoke smell. Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, I did wash them at that 60-degree mark. So very high temperatures to get rid of those smells. And the other smell that I was going to talk about is actually his nighttime nappy. Yes, there is a particular type of smell that you get in the morning, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who talks about this, because I've had comments around nighttime nappies as well and the way they smell. So something that I notice and something to keep in mind is the fact that it depends on your baby's diet as well. So I realized that when we eat things like asparagus or fish, for example, his smells, so his nighttime nappy smell is much worse. So that's something to keep in mind if you are minimizing like the smell of your baby. Make sure to know that what you're feeding your baby will obviously come out at night, and therefore the smell will as well. Number 5, and something that I'm going to finish up with, is the fact that he weighs so much heavier with a cloth nappy. So the weight of the baby is very much, I can't say doubled, but it does increase with a cloth nappy. As you're having more padding, you've got more inserts, you've got more cloth, so essentially it's more clothing that you've got on your baby. Yes, it makes sense that your baby will actually be heavier. And I wish I knew that, because I would have probably started doing weights a lot earlier. It's lucky that you get used to it as your baby grows and your baby starts off quite small, and that you end up getting like muscles on your arms. I don't know about you, but I certainly have. Something to keep in mind is actually the type of nappy might mean less or more weight. So if you have a better quality nappy, something with like bamboo or hemp with like a thin insert, it means that they'll be thinner, they'll be less weighty in my opinion. So perhaps it's just around actually getting better nappies and buying a lot better quality nappies. I'll give you one specific example, and that's one of the nappies that I reviewed. That's a brand that only started like late last year, so a really new brand. They're called Nappy News, and actually I like the fact that they've got like a 2 insert like system, because the top is different from the bottom. I believe one's microfiber, the other one's like hemp and bamboo mix, and basically because of that system, one of the inserts is actually smaller than the one at the bottom. It means that it's much thinner and more compact, and it lasts me a lot more. So it lasts me for a lot longer, so like that 3-hour mark, which is awesome. But it means that actually because it's thin and compact and it's such good quality, it's not as weighty. So basically, I keep saying weighty, but I don't know if that's a word. Basically, it's not as heavy as some of the other ones that I've got, especially if you've got like a whole big microfiber insert and like a couple of other boosters to make sure that it lasts you 3 hours. What I'm saying is basically buy good quality nappies because you won't regret it, because then you wouldn't have to carry around such heavy weight. Amazing! So these are the 5 things that I wish I knew before I started cloth diapering, and I hope that these tips and tricks actually help you in your journey or within your collection that you've got right now. I'd love to know what you think about cloth diapers, and if you believe that there's something that you wish you knew before you started your journey. So please do comment down below. If you've watched this whole video, thank you so much. I hope that you can pop this icon into the comments down below so that I can thank you properly. I look forward to chatting to you soon, so thanks so much for joining, and until next time.